Welcome to Artistic Adventures. This is part 3 of our Korean doll project, and we're going to be painting flowers on the dress that we made in the previous video. So let's get started. Here's our doll with the dress, and we're going to be using just acrylic paints, nothing special. I did water them down a little bit more. We're going to paint the flowers on the front of the dress as well as on the top of the sleeves at the shoulders. So I'm basically using white. I'm using a little bit of red to make pink, and I use some black and some green. And those are really, oh, and gold. I did use some gold to outline the flowers. So the thing to do with these flowers is, first of all, I'm going to try to make a flat surface for me to paint on. And I just put some aluminum foil around a book and slipped it under the skirt. And then the steps are really to start with white. And we're going to just go ahead and paint the outline, well, not the outline, but the whole shape of the flowers, which are sort of a star design, and then some leaves, which are just sort of a leaf shape. And with this base of white, then we can add the colors that we need to give them the look of the flowers that were on that picture. And knowing how to do the layers is really kind of the secret of this. Otherwise, these are really not that hard to do. So you're just going to do your little star-shaped flowers, and I'm not really trying to put them in the same design as the one in the picture or any specific order. I'm just scattering them around. Some are overlapped, some are not. Some are a little bit larger than others. This is just where your artistic eye comes in, and just make it look however you like. You can put more or less depending on how you want the skirt to look. I'm sort of leaning more towards a simple look, I think, for this dress. So I'm not going to put a ton of flowers on the front, just enough to give it a little decorative touch. And then also to add a little bit of that same design to the sleeves to give it the outfit a complete look that goes together well. And I did actually have to thin this acrylic paint out a little bit. It was not really going on that smooth. This is a actually pretty thick piece of cotton. It's not super thin like some cottons are. And so I was finding that it just wasn't the paint wasn't flowing over it the way I would have liked for it to. So easy enough to just thin it out with some water and keep going. So here we are. So far, I've got a few flowers and some leaves. And the leaves, I'm not really attaching into anything. They're just sort of floating around in this design. And you can do this however you like. Once I look at the picture and I see the structure of how they're painted, then I just sort of go on my own and paint the designs where I think they should be. Mostly, I want to have this be sort of tall in the middle and maybe spread out a little bit on the sides, but overall, I want the whole design to be in the center of the dress so that when you're looking at it from the front, you're basically getting a good view of the painted flowers. I don't know if any of you guys do a lot of painting. I tend to be sort of a schizophrenic artist. I do just about everything, and I have my whole life. I think I started painting when I was probably maybe 5 or 6, and then seriously, as I got a little bit older into grade school, I really took up portrait painting, and I did a lot of portraits using oil. I really worked more in oil paint back then as opposed to acrylic. And I also did a lot of work with chalk pastels. But the process with painting is kind of the same. It's just knowing which brushes to use and how the brushes are going to look with the paint on the surface that you're painting. And once you get that down, it really is the same no matter whether you use oil or not. Oil just doesn't dry as fast as the acrylics, and that can be good or bad depending on what you're painting and if you're needing to blend things. This is nice because it's really drying almost as soon as I paint it, and that'll be good because we're going to be putting some layers down. Once we have this white down, that's going to be our background for the other things that we do to the flowers. The other thing I kind of love about painting is that you never know how it's going to end up till the end. So here we are putting some dark pink down in the center of these flowers, and then we're going to go back with a lighter pink around the outside of that dark pink circle and sort of spread it out into the petals and give it a little bit of a graduated look. So now I'm going back with a lighter pink and just spreading it around the outside of that dark pink circle and blending it out as needed with some white so it doesn't look too splotchy. At this point, you might be thinking that doesn't really look that good, but trust me, we'll get there. You just have to do all the steps. And that's the thing with your own painting is don't give up. Just keep going in with the details. And sometimes what you start with ends up looking completely different at the end after you've put some details and shading and that sort of thing in it. So I'm not really sure what if these are supposed to be cherry blossoms or a specific kind of flower, but um, they're just sort of a white star-shaped flower. All right, so there's our white flowers with the hot pink center and some lighter color. Now I'm going to take the gold that's really glittery and put it around the edges of the flower. And this will give it, I think, adds sort of that Asian look to the way these flowers are painted. Seems like I see this on porcelain and other things. You'll have the flowers or designs outlined in gold, sort of a gold leaf. Now I'm going to also outline the leaves, but I'm going to wait until I do the green shading in those before I do. That way the gold's kind of on the top of everything. So right now I'm just going around the outside of the flowers and I'm not necessarily making this a smooth line. In some places I almost am stippling it on. It, sort of a, beaded around look. So it's not really just a smooth line. And you don't have to do that. You can do it anyway. And if you make a mistake, like if you spill like some white or gold paint in a place you didn't want it or your brush touches it, just turn it into a leaf or something and make it part of the design or a little swirl. It's your design, so you can do whatever you want with it, right? So now I'm going to go back with some light green and put that sort of in the center of these leaves. And then I'll take white paint and sort of grade, make a gradient as it goes up towards the top of the leaf. I want the green part to be more down the bottom and to some degree maybe going up the center of my little leaves, depending on how big they are. The bigger they are, the more you can detail it with the green. And this is really going to help make it stand out on this pink material. As you'll see when I do the sleeves, this green is almost the exact same color as the fabric. So in some cases where I painted the green, it almost just looks like the fabric is there and not any paint. So I did add some white back on that, but you'll see that in just a minute. So just about finished here with the leaves, and then we are going to go back, as I said, and do the gold leaf around the leaves as well. And this really helps make the whole design stand out. I think you can see now it's starting to take shape and look a little bit more like the flowers in the picture, which is good. That's a really good thing. It would be horrible to like have already sewed this dress and then go in and screw it up by painting something that looked really crappy. I always have that fear, but somehow or other it always ends up turning out okay. So still putting those outlines around the leaves and making those stand out a little bit more. And once you do this, you can kind of look at the design and go back if you need to add some white or some green or pink or whatever in different places, you can do that. So that's how it looks with the gold outline. And now we're going to do some work on the center of the flowers. The ways these were painted, it's like just sort of a little spider webs of black sticking out from the center. Not really like a spoke because it wasn't really even. And we're going to just do that not in any symmetrical way or anything, just putting these little spokes into the center of each of the little pink dots of the flower. And then we're going to go back with some white and put white dots at the end of each of those little spokes. So pretty simple. Yeah, I don't think these flowers are really that hard to do. And if you wanted to try them, maybe try it on some paper first if you don't feel comfortable, and then if you wanted to paint on some fabric, go for the fabric next. I've been painting so long that I felt like I could just go ahead and do the design on the fabric. All right, so we've got the little dots on, and I go back over a couple that I felt needed to be a little bit bigger. And that's basically all of that we're going to do to the front. And I'm going to show you some still photo of this that might show it in a little bit better color, I think. The pink looks a lot pinker. And now we're going to work on the sleeves or the shoulders of this outfit. And I'm having to paint it on the doll because I actually sewed the jacket onto the doll and I can't get it off. All right, so once again, the same procedure. We're just doing the white flowers and leaf shapes and filling those in. And as we did with the flowers on the front, we'll go back and do the colors layered in after that. And once again, I'm not doing this in any particular design. And once I do the other sleeve, you'll see I don't even do the two sleeves the same. I'm putting the leaves and the flowers where I would like to see them and where I think they look nice. And one of the reasons some people have asked me why I call my channel Artistic Adventures, it's Artistic Adventures because some of the things I do on these videos I've never done before. Now, yes, I've painted, and yes, I've painted flowers, and yes, I've made costumes, but I've never made a Korean costume, and I've never painted flowers like this on a costume, or not this particular way anyway. So a lot of what I'm doing for the first time for you guys. It's not that I'm like an expert Korean, doll dress or Bellatrix doll dress or Chinese doll dress maker. And that's part of what I love about this channel and about this work is I really like doing new things. And that's why I've told you before I like doing challenges. When you guys say, oh, make a Bellatrix doll or oh, make a Regina Evil Queen doll, that's really challenging for me because I'm starting from nothing and just using the skills that I have in sewing and painting and polymer clay and that sort of thing to come up with the look that we want. And if you're like that too, then you can join along with my adventure and we'll be fellow adventurers together. So finishing up pretty much this side, I think, after we do the flowers, we're going to go back in with our little black spokes in the middle of the flowers. And then we'll go back in with the white dots. And I did do a little bit more white into some of those leaves. As I said, after I painted them, the green paint was the same color as the fabric, so it didn't even look like I'd painted it. So I went in and added a little bit more white to the flowers to make them stand out a little bit. And also added a little bit more pink in different places because I felt like I wasn't getting the color that I want. And that's a really great picture of my hand, right? Sorry about that. Sometimes the position of my hand gets in the way. So there's our the left shoulder of the doll. And now we're going to go over and do the right shoulder. And as I said, this isn't going to look exactly like the other shoulder. I'm just painting it as I think as it hits me to do. That's why it's an adventure, right? So putting down that white for our little star-shaped flowers again. And then I think I put about four flowers on the other shoulder, so I'll at least put the same number of flowers, but they are not going to be in exactly the same position. I just want them to be sitting on top of the shoulders so that it adds a nice look to the outfit and also matches the design of the skirt. And I think then everything will kind of end up going together. The picture that I had of the doll with this dress that I sort of patterned it after had a lot more painted flowers on it than I'm doing. But I don't know. I just felt like with the cotton that a more simple look was appropriate. And that's why I didn't paint quite so many flowers. I think if I'd finished the satin skirt without messing it up, then maybe more flowers would have looked good on that. As we talked about, the commoners wore cotton and uh, more of the, more basic fabrics than the nobility that wore silks and satins. So this might have been a dress, say, that a more common person would wear on, say, a bridal gown day, like a bride's gown, or some sort of festival or special holiday where they wore more colors and a little bit more elaborate costume. That's kind of how I'm seeing this doll. So let's see. Now at this point, we're just finishing up the gold outline. After that, we'll go back in and do the little black lines on the flowers and the little white dots. And we're almost finished with this part of it. I think this turned out really nice, and I've put that bad day behind me. So I've had 2 good days now where things kind of worked out the way I wanted them to. So now just popping those little white dots on. I think the colors showed up better on the pink than they do on the green, but I like that that the design matches, so I think that's all that matters. It looks pretty cute. Yeah, so there's our doll with her painted shoulders and her painted front. And I'm going to give you some still photos so you can see these a little bit better. Here's the front with the doll standing, and there's the left shoulder, and here's the right shoulder. And once again, a full look at the whole dress. So next we're going to be working on her hair. So we're going to style that and do a little hair ornament. And then we'll be finished with our Korean doll project. And we'll be moving on to something else. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And please subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Thanks and bye.